Hey everyone. So welcome in, welcome in. We'll see who will be joining us today. We have a really funny topic or sort of interesting, and that is um 50-50 relationships and the convenient girl. The convenient girl being the nice girl, the woman who has a bit of the nice girl syndrome. You've been nicer than you would like in previous relationships or your current relationship, right? We're gonna see in the chat. We're gonna leave the questions in the chat for later, if there's any, and then I'll just continue with the talk and make sure you ask your questions a bit after. So first things first. Of course, we need to have a disclaimer, right? Because typically, you know, certain people think that this type of conversation is to shame anyone or to, make you feel bad about what you're doing. Like, obviously not. What we're doing is we are evoking thought and you questioning what it is that you're doing, right? Like if things are not working out exactly the way you want, right? And the 50-50 topic is so controversial here in North America and I guess in Europe too. And to me that's a bit funny because obviously where I come from, where I was born and raised in Mexico, in Mexico City, it's not a thing to have this conversation. It's not a thing, it's a given. It is a masculine trait to be, treating women and to assume the role of providing. It's not really assumed. It's a natural DNA driven role. So it was never a thing or anything that I ever thought about or questioned until I moved to Sweden the first time when I was 16, a little bit in Argentina when I, lived there in my early 20s. And here in Canada, it's like a huge kind of topic, right? So a client of mine, she was asking me, she's like, I'm terrified of being with a guy that is not a provider, that is going to want 50-50. And I'm like, don't, like, to me, it was like a fear that was almost irrational. But I mean, of course, it's not, given what, the stories that you hear online. But then I said, okay, let's break it down. How does it even happen? So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how does that even happen? How does that come about? Um, like ending up in a 50-50 situation. And the first thing I want to say is the most common scenario is when the woman starts it. Yeah, kind of like you start going on like on dates and you're like, oh, well, he paid the first two or three. And then you're like, well, it's only fair that I, paid this time or I get the coffee or this or that, right? So it always, well, not always, but like it typically starts to happen with the woman offering. She's thinking she's being polite, she's thinking whatever, right? So, and sorry if I'm out of breath, just know that it's a pregnancy thing. And yeah, you just kind of run out of breath nonstop, right? So, anyway, let's break down the reasons when the woman kind of offers, like, we'll talk about the different scenarios, right? So, what are the reasons that a woman might think of offering to pay, right? And I mean, it all starts with dating, and it ends up, up until you have children and up until, you know, later. So the first thing is your culture. So you probably live in Europe or in the United States, and it's just what everyone does. And you never really stop to think, like, do I like this? Is it right? You just kind of do what your culture does, right? And you think this is the way it is. You think this is a practice. And then what else? So you're like, this is like the culture, this is the way it is here. And you don't really, sometimes you don't really know there's another way to do things. You don't know literally and that it could be different. Okay? Like you hear this all the time where, oh, I didn't know that, men could pay it all. So that's the first reasons. Here I wrote them down because there's so many reasons, right? And this live, the stock is gonna be on the longer side. So if you don't have time to watch it all, it'll be there for you to, you know, watch it when it's done. So sometimes, it's your culture and you know that you don't like it, and you know deep inside of you that it's wrong, it feels wrong, and you're still, and this happens in the States, not so much in Europe, and here in Canada, right? Like it happens too. um you know you don't like it, but you want to be liked, and you don't want the guy to like go away, so like there's some fear that he might leave. Okay, so we'll talk about this whole topic when we start breaking down the convenient girl, the nice girl. And then you believe, sometimes what happens is that you believe you owe him. So I've heard ladies say, oh no, it's just that I don't want to owe him anything, so I'm going to pay my half. And the truth is that you don't owe him anything. He invited you out, I hope, right? He invited you out and he's inviting you out, and a healthy man feels good about treating you when you're going out on dates. Okay? So, what else? So, I've also heard, oh yeah, I don't like him. Kind of like at that point you don't like him, and you're like, well, then I'm going to pay cuz I don't like him. So, I mean, obviously each of these bullet points has like a whole like hour we could talk about, right? But anyway, let's continue. So, a super common one. You want to appear independent. Kind of like you have to show it, and yeah, God forbid you weren't. So you want to make sure he knows you're independent, and for some reason you believe that this is a good thing. So it is and it isn't. It's good to be a grown woman. You shouldn't be a woman child. The woman child is the one who doesn't have the ability to take care of herself. Like she's literally like a child, right? And then, of course, you don't want to appear that or show that. So you want to portray that you're independent. So that's a common one, right? And then when you're in this train of thought that being independent or leading with your independence while dating, you lack the understanding or the knowing that of the male DNA. You don't know how men think at a subconscious level. You don't know what drives men, at a cellular level, literally. Okay. So you don't know any of this because it's not something that is talked about in your culture or in your family, right? In my culture and my family, even though all of these things are embodied, they're natural, it's not something that it's talked about nonstop. But when you bump into the rarity of a man not, you know, paying, when he's on a date, then it's like, oh yeah, he has problems. He's wrong. There's something wrong with him, right? So what else? You don't understand the male DNA, right? So that's kind of like the core of that aspect. Okay, so now let's talk about the scenario where he asks for you to pay. Okay, so all these reasons are when you offer to pay, which is like super common. Now let's talk about when he is the one initiating that. Oh no, you're paying your half, or God forbid, the whole thing. So the first thing is that you did not vet the person you're going out with. Like literally, you just kind of saw, maybe you saw a guy online, you liked him, you kind of saw the things you had in common with him, and you're like, yeah, he sounds nice, he looks good, he's hot, or whatever it is. And you did not vet his uh ability or willingness to provide. Kind of like if you're going out with a guy that is an artist, a starving artist, would it be surprising that he does not have money to invite a girl out? Or like a bouncer or a waiter. So nothing wrong with these professions. Nothing wrong. Every single profession is honorable, and they're earning their living. But there's certain professions that in certain cities simply make a man broke. And broke means he can barely pay for his own expenses. He can barely pay for his wherever he lives, and let alone invite a woman out on a proper date. Okay. So you did not vet who you were going out with. You didn't have that requirement that he must have X or Y profession and above. Okay. Because there's certain professions or things they do that don't lend themselves to, like having the ability to take a woman out, especially in particular cities. So what else? So yeah, that's how we define broke. The guy who literally can barely pay for his own stuff, let alone invite a woman out. Now, um, this guy that can barely pay for his own stuff, he is in survival mode. Okay. So obviously he's not even capable, or, you know, he has no business dating anyone. He has no business in that. He can't afford it. Right? So don't ever go out with a guy who cannot afford to date, plain and simple. So believe it or not, that's a really common mistake of you or whoever not vetting the guy you're going out with. What's the other scenario where he appeared capable, he appeared to have a normal or decent or, proper profession for these matters, and then you show up and he just, you know, he still asks you to pay for your half at some point, whether it be on the first date or whether it be at some point. Okay. So what does that mean? Okay. So every single man on the planet that is healthy, that grew up in a happy family with mom and dad, where the dad took care of the family, where the dad was a provider, every single man that grew in a happy, normal home will be, a provider. Now, even the ones that didn't grow up in that environment, they have that ingrained in them. Just like you having you as a woman, perhaps, the instinct to breed or to have a baby or to get married, it's those instincts. It's the human nature of a man, right? Even the ones who perhaps grew up in a dysfunctional home, but then there's the ones that have trauma where in their families, they didn't experience a good family with a proper role model of a dad. And then what happens then? He he has trauma and doesn't know any better. So it's not a healthy man. Okay. So once you encounter that, where you literally didn't expect that, you never see them again, period. Freaking simple. So when you see whole channels in YouTube that are dedicated to like the dusty men and the whole epidemic of 50-50 relationships and all the problematic it brings, you're like, well, how the hell did that happen? Well, there you have it, right? Now, if you can think of another reason of why this can happen, in your opinion, write it in the chat and we'll see. Let me just see here if there's any. Let's see. Let me just see if there's anything there in the chat. I don't see anything for now. But so there's kind of the background, right? So when I see clients that are like, kind of panicking of encountering like this whole 50-50 thing, I'm like, it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen. It might just happen if you literally didn't think anything. When you kind of just went with the flow, you went out with a guy that asked you out, like, I don't know, randomly somewhere, right? So when you're paying attention to who you're going out with, and you're kind of like, okay, does he meet these basic requirements for me to go out with him, right? It's very unlikely that you will bump into this. Now, imagine Kate Middleton, okay? Do you think Kate Middleton or Paris Hilton ever, went on a date and anyone asked them to pay for 50%? Do you think that's ever happened? The answer is no. Okay, no, because they grew up with the expectation that men treat them. Okay, so that's another thing. When you know that this is your standard A, this is your expectation B, and you accept nothing less, you come in with this energy, with this vibe about you. So obviously, like, you're someone who is, you know, um, well presented. You're someone who is well groomed. Uh, hopefully, wearing something nice, not too overtly sexual. When you present yourself and show up on a date, um, with a certain energy, a certain vibe, a certain look to you, I mean, it's almost impossible that this would happen. And if you granted that you went out with someone that has the ability to treat you in a date, right? So it's very hard for this to be oh, look, there's someone in the comments saying agree. Grew up in Europe and have never expected to pay. Mm, kind of like he didn't like, yeah, I guess she's agreeing with the fact that in Europe, um, it's cultural, right? But no matter where you are in the world, so here in Canada, for you who wrote this comment, like sadly there's no names in the comments, but let me illustrate an example here for you. I talk about this in my channel all the time, that all of these topics that are human nature driven are uh, they're not quite cultural. Okay, let me explain. So when I moved to Canada, right, I was 26, almost 27. I was doing circular dating, and that kind of stuff. And a girl that I knew, a Canadian girl that I knew, she said, Monica, when are you moving in with this guy you're dating? So obviously I was dating other guys, but I had only talked about um who is my husband now. And I said, what do you mean moving in? I was like, I need to be married to move in. And she's like, no, 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 but the way we do it here in Canada is you move in, you're like roommates or whatever the fuck you want to call it for forever. And then, um, you know, um, and that's the way it goes. And then you see where it goes. And I'm like, well, that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to do that. How about no? Whoever wants to be with me, will follow the standard, will comply with the standard. And lo and behold, right? Um, my husband proposed to me 3.5 months after we met. And once we got married a couple months after, then that's when we moved in together. It says, yes, guys here in the US see that as a commitment, moving in. So, do you want to talk quickly about that? Let's just it's a kind of different topic, but let's kind of talk about that because it's related to like culture and countries and whatever, right? It says, how would you respond if they ask? Yeah. So, okay, let's break it down. So, first of all, it's convenient for them to move in together, yeah, without a commitment. How convenient to call either sharing bills or getting free wife benefits from you. You get it? Free wife benefits. Kind of like he gets to sleep with you, he gets to eat your food, and all the things that you bring, which is you. He gets that for free. And conveniently, that's labeled commitment. So if you are not in your dark feminine energy, which is, I look after myself, and therefore I need to have high standards. And my definition of commitment means a real commitment, a tangible commitment. A tangible commitment is when a man tells you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I can't live without you. Okay. So he's like, what's mine is yours. This is a commitment, a real, legal, tangible commitment. Okay. Actually, I think my husband at some point asked, because I lived in a different city. He's like, why don't you move in? Like, why don't you move to Calgary and live with me, like, while figure out what you're doing. Now it's like, oh my God, that's so cute of you. But I would only do that with a husband, with someone I'm going to be forever with. So that's all I said, right? So that's how you respond if they ask, right? And he got the memo 100%, right? So, but you see how the topic of convenient, okay? How convenient is it to tell you that moving in is a commitment when you're giving it all for free, okay? So, food for thought. And again, all these things that I say, all the stuff that I talk about in my channel is if you're done wasting time, if you don't want to be taken for a ride, if you want to be treated like really, really well for your entire marriage, and of course, the stuff that I teach is based on human nature, but also my own, experience being married for 13 plus years. So it's not stuff that I tell you to date successfully for a couple years. No, it's things that carry throughout time. So, okay, what else? So jumping into the convenient girl, because you see how it's all kind of related. So it's always a convenient girl that ends up in 50-50 relationships. Imagine her pregnant, 6 or 7 months pregnant, and she feels like shit, right? Because a lot of times in pregnancy, you feel horrible. Speaking from experience right now. So, and then this man is asking her to work and be on her feet and this and that when she's just feeling like death. Okay. Like imagine these scenarios of that, or when the baby is born and it's maybe a sick baby and he can't be just in plain daycare or whatever, right? So it can get really ugly. That whole scenario of like 50-50. Like I realize that a lot of people make it work, but those marriages are completely different. They are what they call a partnership. Okay. They're not a marriage, they're a partnership. Granted, in marriage, there is partnership, right? But when you're in a partnership with very little marriage in it, that's the freaking horror stories and where all the divorces come from. Yada, yada, yada. So, what else? So, back to the convenient girl. The convenient girl is another name for the nice girl syndrome. Okay? The nice girl syndrome is, as you know, when you feel like you have to be nice to be liked. It's a bit of a manipulative tactic to make people stay, people that otherwise would be gone if you were true to self. if you were authentic and true to self. So let's kind of break it down. Who is a convenient girl? And again, it's not to shame her. It's not to, because again, a lot of times, a lot of people have been there. I wish I, no, I don't wish I could tell you that I've been there. In that case, I haven't been there because I was kind of born with this bitch attitude, if you will. Kind of like, no, that's not working for me. Like, I never gave a flying fuck about whether people liked whatever I, and that's a whole other story, another topic. Of course, growing up being like that was, it was hard. But when I was an adult, I was like, good God, thank you for this gift. So no, I haven't been there, and I don't want you to be there. I don't want anyone to be there. Okay? So who's a convenient girl? Who's a nice girl? She's someone who doesn't know what she wants. These are all the scenarios, right? Someone that doesn't know what she wants. How many times have I asked um, clients or women, like, what do you want? Do you want to get married? What do you want? And they're like, well, I just want to be in a relationship. I just want, love or something like that. So they literally don't know what they want. They just think they want maybe the attention or the company from a guy, whatever. So, what else? Maybe you do know what you want deep down. What does it say? Yeah, in the comments. Yeah. Maybe you do know what you want, but you haven't owned your desire. Kind of like you're like, yeah, I wish I would be married, but you just won't say it. You're afraid to own it. And what happens then? When you're afraid to be yourself, to own your own self, guess what that is called? That is called being insecure. That is being non-confident. So that's the other point, right? Like the nice girl syndrome is for a woman, it's a woman that is not confident. She either has no clarity in herself or no owning of her desire, right? So this nice girl, she also knows what she wants, won't own it because she's afraid that she will end up alone, that the man will leave. So she leads with fear. And, that's a huge, huge, huge topic. It's called the topic of karmic relationships. It can destroy your life, not only with men, but with women too, friendships, all that stuff. It's a huge topic. So we talk about that in, one-on-one coaching, all that stuff. So anyway, um, so this woman, she's too available. Okay. She she's there. She's always there for this man, for the man she's dating. So if the man wants her to date only him, kind of like he wants her to be exclusive to him, she's like, yeah, okay, nice, I love it. So she'll do it without, and she has no requirements. For example, here what we learn in this channel, what we teach is don't be afraid to have standards, don't be afraid to have requirements. I'll give my own example. For me to be exclusive with someone, I required an engagement. Kind of like, explain to me why it makes sense that I would take myself off the dating market when you're like, what are you doing? Like trying to see if I'm good enough? You want to try me out? Or you want to get to know me? No, well, this is me. take it or leave it. Like, we can date, we can get to know each other, yeah, but I should be able to get to know other people, and so can you. What's so freaking wrong with that? Men do that anyway. This is the funny part, that men do that anyway. And they don't go around calling it circular dating or rotational dating. That's what they do. Why? Because they're logical. And they're like, yeah, well, I'm getting to know her. I can get to know other people simultaneously. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. So what else? So being too available, that's what it means, right? You're just there. You're just there going along, going with the flow. So a lot of what these inertia relationships, what does it say here in the comments? It says they see exclusivity as commitment. Yeah, bingo. You're saying all the things that I like what you're saying, because they literally, like, you're saying all the things that make it sound like commitment that they do or they say, right? Kind of like, yeah, the fact that he's telling you conveniently, take yourself off the market to only date me, and this is a commitment, and like, how, and again, this is not to shame or be bitch to you or anyone, but like, how naive can someone be to be like, oh yeah, like, so beautiful, kind of like, I love the words. And this is something you need to be aware of as a female, as a woman. So men are visual, very visual creatures, but women are very what do you call it, audible, or yeah, right? So women are very prone to love and be like really like stimulated by whatever they hear. Okay, it says your videos have really opened my eyes. I wish I knew your name. It says En. Because I love connecting with all of you guys. So no, I'm happy to hear that um you have resonated with the stuff that I put out here, right? Which is really for you to feel good about yourself and never end up in an abusive scenario, right? So yeah, what was I saying? Frick, I lost my train of thought. Let's see. Um, yeah, so we were talking and saying that the the men, what they do is like, oh, here's a commitment. Kind of like, I'm telling you this, and me as a woman, I buy it. I believe it, right? Kind of like really, really innocently, like you're a 5-year-old and you're buying that. Here, the invitation is to increase your standards, for this is the dark feminine energy. Increase your standards for your own well-being, aka, no, a commitment to me means something tangible. Kind of like, you want to spend the rest of your life with me, you want to provide for me, you want to take care of our children, like something real, right? Because, and again, ladies, here's the thing. If you told me you're 17 years old, 18 years old, 19, 20, and you're buying all these things, kind of like, oh, like moving in together is a commitment, or a few words are a commitment. If you told me that you are like super young and naive and like you have all the time in the world to waste, sure. Like, sure, that's your excuse, right? Live and learn, sure. But this channel and all these teachings are for grown women that are past that. They're past the, you know, experimenting. They are past like learning via suffering. You're past all kinds of like random shit, right? You are at a point where you want to be intentional and where you want something good for your life, right? And you want to have the best experience with men, aka you are intentional. So that was a little segue into the topic of commitment, right? So let's continue to talk about the convenient girl. It says, so she has no specific requirements or no standards. So again, you're someone who didn't stop to think who gets to live with me, who gets to hug me, who gets to, you know, who gets to have me. So this is something you need to think about. Who gets what from you? So the convenient girl, she's easily had. She's not a challenge. She's just there. Okay? So as I said this before, she goes with the flow to see where it goes. Okay? And this is the thing, guys, that dating shouldn't be like, oh, like I'm gonna spend freaking months and years without end, without, like I've said it before in many videos, men know right away how they see you. Do they see you as wife material? Do they see you as what kind of girl, right? It's kind of cutting off. I hope this is not showing on the streaming. But anyway, going with the flow means you lack intentionality. And when you lack intentionality, you end up in all these scenarios. You end up in all these like 50-50. You know? There's no way on earth that you will end up in a 50-50 thing, or in or in a less than desire, or in a crappy situation, when you are intentional and really careful about what you're doing, who you're seeing, right? So obviously, this nice girl, she lacks boundaries, okay? Which is, part of the same thing as lacking requirements, having no requirements, right? So the nice girl, she requires no commitment to give this or this or that. Okay? What else? She doesn't know what commitment is, or she doesn't stop to question and to put your foot down, kind of like, hey, you know what? This makes no sense to me. Kind of like, I know that here in Germany or here in the UK or here in the States, they don't, like, I know it's not the norm, but this is not what I want. Okay? So for example, in my case, growing up in Mexico, I used to see the family dynamics, and I used to see how the women in Mexico were, which again, it's a mecca of light feminine energy and all that stuff, but women really lacked the masculine energy in them, right? And to me, that was horrible because it made them into women child, like child woman, whatever, right? So what did I do? I said, you know what? I don't think this is right. This is my culture. This is where I grew up. I, I know there's something else. And I gave my opportunity to see other cultures and know that it wasn't the only way to be, the only way to live. And I went away, but you don't have to do that. You can do that, but you don't have to. But anyway, there's that, right? So for you to tap into your dark feminine energy is to look after yourself and to do what's best for you. Like a dream woman is a woman that has a really healthy dose of dark feminine energy. Yeah. That's what a dream woman is. And a lot of clients a lot of time ask me like, what is the secret to a lasting marriage, right? So for those who are new to me or to my channel, um, I've been married for 13 years and observing like so many marriages a lot, like in my life and through my coaching and all of that stuff, I'll tell you the one thing that really makes you like respectable in the eyes of a man is when you're able to tap into your dark feminine energy, aka you're not someone who is here to please freaking the planet. You're not someone who is here to just do what others tell her. The dream girl that is in her dark feminine energy, she's someone who has her own well-being and interest at heart. And I'm not saying be a bitch to everyone. I'm saying be true to you, be authentic, and don't do anything you don't want. If you're ever on a date and a man asks you to pay 50% and you absolutely hate that, fucking never see this person ever again. Period. Because that's the way that you will never end up. Keeps freezing, or I don't know. Um, you'll never end up in these 50-50 like scenarios, right? Like there's no way on earth. So when I see again channels dedicated to this whole topic, I'm flabbergasted. Because and the whole thing with the Dusty something, like it must be a real epidemic. Something that I'm not even like, how can I say? It's not really part of my world, you know? Um with clients, it's not really a thing either, because from the very first moment they start dating, it's so intentional, it's so vetted and strategic that there's no freaking way that you will end up in the whole Dusty or whatever the hell you want to call it, broke man or 50-50 scenario, right? It's typically women that are initiating all of that. Typically, if a man asks you out on a proper date, he's someone that has a level of respect to you. If he's asking you on a correct, proper date, and that's a whole different topic. If he is asking you on a nice, proper date, there's a level of respect to you. So it's basically for you to lose that respect in a nutshell. So it's not really a thing, ladies, and that's what I want to leave you here with as a conclusion to this topic is, don't ever fear that. Don't think that this is something that will happen to you, because life is not happening to you. Life is happening for you. This means that you get to choose how it goes for you, who you date, who you don't date, and most importantly, what you accept and what you don't. You're the gatekeeper. You get to say what goes and what doesn't go. You are the energetic lead. You're the energetic boss. You get to say what treatment is accepted, what treatment is not. And this is part of tapping into your dark feminine energy, right? Kind of like never accepting, ever accepting any treatment that is less than ideal for you. Okay? So the idea that I was finishing before this crashed was that the single thing that makes a marriage last, or indirectly because values are a huge thing, but the woman that is a dream woman is a woman in her dark feminine energy who has earned the respect of the man she's with. How do you earn respect? That being true to you, by never taking any garbage, because when you respect yourself, then others can respect you. Okay, so let me give you an example. Like yesterday, my mom was telling me, like, oh, like my friend, she's like, my friend Esther, she she has a jealous husband. She's always have had a jealous husband, the jealous type, like the controlling, the possessive type. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she says, oh, like that Esther was going to the gym, and every time she's leaving the house, he will ask her, who are you going with? You're going there to the gym to like show your ass to the trainer and like flirt with him? I was like, what? You call this being jealous? You're saying this is a jealous husband, a jealous man? No, this is a freaking a-hole. And I'm like, they had been together for 50 years or something. Okay, because there's marriages and marriages, and that's a different topic, right? That's a very different topic, and I've talked about this in my channel, and we can continue to talk about that for centuries, right? But I was like, excuse me, if anyone ever talked to me like that, it would be the last time they freaking talked to me. And these people have been together for 50 years. This woman has subjected herself to the abuse of this man for fucking 50 years. You get it? There's no dark feminine energy there. She's a freaking doormat. She has zero respect. Okay? So it's what you tolerate is you commanding respect. When you are commanding respect, and that includes, no, you're a grown-ass man. I will not pay your bills. I will not be your roommate. Yeah? This is commanding respect, and this is like, this is it. You get it? Like, no, I'm not taking that. And again, once you start a dynamic, I always say, tell me how it started, and I'll tell you how it ends, right? Because how you allow someone to treat you when they first meet you and all that stuff, it really sets the tone and establishes the dynamic for like the rest of the relationship or even the marriage, right? So whether it be 50-50 scenarios, whether it be anything else, it's you who is a gatekeeper and who says, no, this doesn't fucking roll well with me. The answer is no. Okay? So, anyway, ladies, this is all to say that a dream girl who is in her dark feminine energy would never have to deal with that, ever. You don't have to deal with that. Step into your dark feminine energy, and therefore step into the dream girl that you are. You know what I mean? This is you for you to step into. that role and that energy. Okay. So that's pretty much all I have for you, ladies, in that topic. It's not that complicated. It's not, you know, um, it seems to be like a huge topic, hence the channel's dedicated to it, but it's really, really simple. It's whatever you accept. And that's it. Let's see if there's any comments. Any new comments? Let me see here. I don't see anything new. Let me know if you guys have any questions. There's some people that arrived pretty late to the streaming, but that's really all there is to it. I don't see any other questions, any other comments. Um, if there's none, then I think we've spent some time together. So I really appreciate all the girls that, showed up. Or it says here, what if on the first date they ask, what are you looking in a guy? Yeah, good question. What are you looking in a guy? So the first thing that okay, this is like a little mask, or a little a different way to ask something they ask every single time. Something they ask every single time is, what are you looking for? Basically, they're asking you, are you looking for a hookup, or are you looking for a serious relationship, marriage, right? So in dating, an online dating, so just so you know, most of with my clients, it's mostly online dating. There's obviously some dating that is not online, but the majority is online. The recommendation is always that your profile somewhere states that you're looking for marriage, that you're looking for literally for marriage. Because if you say something serious or a long-term relationship, it can mean a situationship, right? So when you have that on your profile, he already knows that. Okay. So that's one iteration of this question. But if he literally on the date, when you're there sitting down, he asks you, what do you look for in a guy? I'd say I look for a phenomenal guy that loves his masculine energy, that loves to treat a woman with respect, treat a woman like a woman, a man that likes to take care of his family. And there you go, right? So it's a trick question that they ask you, right? One is like, are you looking for a hookup or for marriage? And before you even go on a date, you want them to know that, right? Because why go on a date when he's looking for a hookup and you're looking for marriage, right? So a lot of people, I've heard people say like, oh, don't tell them what you're looking for. Kind of like be mysterious. So like, yeah, you want to be mysterious, but this is the one thing that you do want to say. Because why get together on a date with a man that is looking for only sex? So save yourself that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like it's a bit of a no-brainer. Keep it simple. Don't elaborate too much. Just be like, I love a man that knows how to take care of a woman, that wants to take care of his family, you know? Kind of keep it simple, right? Because these are trick questions. So anyway, queens, like sadly a lot of you like arrived kind of later, so feel free to rewatch this or watch this from the start. And I'll see you on the next. Like let me know what topics you want us to discuss next, and I'll be more than happy to come and talk to you guys. Thanks for all the ladies that ask questions. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next, okay? Bye now.